Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Balanced Life. I'm Dr. Jacquie, and as you know, this is my favorite day of the week, the time that we get together to talk about all things balanced living. Today, we have no shortage of individuals who will pour into us, share with us, and guide us toward what it means to live a balanced life. As we are rounding out this month, mental health has been a very big part of how we gauge how we're doing, what we're going to get engaged in, and literally the people that we allow in our circle. Today, I just want to have a bit of a dialogue with us on what it means to be educated, to learn what it means to become an advocate, to do some self-reflection on how you are doing. You see, mental health is one of those concerns and conversations that we really don't like to have. We don't ask how people are doing because sometimes we just don't want to know because we're dealing with our own issues and our concerns, and we have people in our families who are seemingly out of sorts. And let me just say, being in this pandemic has brought so many things to light. But today, I am delighted to welcome in our guest who will be with us, Dr. Tierney, Mocha Lee, Pastor J.T. Johnson, Chad Anderson, John Gregory. I am so pleased that all of you are here, and I look forward to our conversation and dialogue. I'd like to bring in all of our guests, and I want to have this simple conversation, this one question that we just don't seem to ask. So everybody, how are you doing? Let's start with Pastor JT because he got that smile on his face like, why are you asking that question, Dr. Jacquie?
I'm great. I'm excited about today's show and definitely excited to be a guest in this much needed conversation. But personally, I'm doing great.
You're doing great. I would like to say, I'm glad you didn't say fine, because in our world, we always say that fine stands for freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. So I am happy to see that you are doing great, because we usually give those sort of pat answers when we kind of don't want to get into how we're really doing. So Mocha Lee, how you doing?
You know, I would use the word magnificence today. I'm feeling awfully magnificent. It's a magnificent Monday. Tuesday, it'll probably be a terrific Tuesday, on and on. Because it's a mindset. It's a mindset. I try to wake up and just, do morning meditations and keep a positive vibe as much as humanly possible, especially because I have to give that same energy to my clients and students all day. So I am actually magnificent. Thank you for
being magnificent today. I hope that some of our viewers will be able to adopt that attitude. Did you hear what she said? It's a mindset. Dr. Tierney, how are you doing?
So, I'm going to come with a little bit of honesty and transparency here. I'm doing good, but I have been pushing back at some overwhelm these past couple of weeks. Just trying to find my new rhythm, my new life balance, between the weekly recordings for the TV show, being a wife, serving my clients with excellence, drinking my water, adulting. It has gotten really crazy here within the past couple of weeks, but I've been very intentional about finding my new rhythm, being intentional about the things that I need in this new season and finding my new balance. So overall, I'm doing really good and just really being intentional to push back at that overwhelm that's been trying to come and take me down.
Thank you for sharing that. I hope that viewers, as you're listening to what we're talking about, honesty, transparency, being able to find your adjective or your verb that kind of fits where you are in this season. Seasons have changed and we're ready to get out and about. I'm excited today to introduce you to Chad Anderson and John Gregory. Now, we will be having a one-on-one with them a little later. But gentlemen, I'd like to ask today, how are you doing?
Hey, this is John Gregory, and I just want to tell you that I am happy because I've decided that happiness is a choice and not an emotion. So I'm always happy.
Happiness is a choice. I love that. Chad?
I can say I'm doing absolutely wonderful as well. To be transparent, have a little honesty, I'm a full-time father of 5. And I also help run this wonderful agency in 17 different cities. So I definitely always am searching for balance and making sure that I keep that mindset, as you all have said earlier.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, audience. So when you're watching and you're typing in the thread, please share with us how you're feeling as you're watching the show. I want to tell you that it's extremely important that we open ourselves up. Let me tell you, our new normal is fluid. It's going to be ever changing. And as we go through each and every day and we're monitoring our emotions and doing some self-reflection, it will push you to the point, sometimes to the brink. When we're back after the break, I want to talk to our guests about what does it really look like to move into this new normal, but also how as a society are we handling what it looks like moving through this COVID pandemic, when we're back after the break.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Dr. Jacquie of A Balanced Life here at Black Star Network. And you know, this is my favorite time of the week. And we're talking to our guests and our contributors today about what it means to strive through mental health. You know, we could not do our show the way that we do our show if we ourselves were not vulnerable, transparent, honest, and open about what we really face day to day. And so I want to start off with Mocha Lee, because most of you know that sometimes it's hard to get back into that rhythm of fitness, to get into that space of wanting to work out. And heaven forbid, if you're a person who doesn't like to go outside or your allergies prevent you from doing so, that can weigh on you mentally. Hey, Mocha Lee.
Hey, yes, indeed. I'm glad we're talking about this. It's always relevant, always relevant.
You know, that relevancy comes in many forms. And, you know, my question for you today is people are considering, you know, their impact on the mental health and having been in for almost 2.5 years. How are you guiding your clients and coaching them to not feel overwhelmed, one, about being guilty because they didn't work out, and then not being able to fit their clothes, not feeling, you know, I don't want to go outside. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to be around people. Share with us how you're guiding us through these mental moments that we're having.
You know, baby steps are always important because just like, you know, we've heard if that word overwhelm is something we kind of want to avoid. So I always explain to people, you really have to be patient with yourself. You really do. And you have to be encouraged because believe it or not, the research shows that actually just 1 hour, believe this now, 1 hour of exercise per week is related to signs of improved mood, lower anxiety, lower stress. And that's just 1 hour. So at least that's just saying, hey, at least get up and move a little bit. And if you want to stay in your house, I'm not mad. You might have some stairs, go up and down the stairs or just go up and down the hall. If you're pumping your arms and your heart rate gets up, that's the whole idea. You want your blood to flow. You want your body to say, wait a minute, is this exercise? Like, am I really getting some of the endorphin? You know, the endorphins are the feel good chemicals that really help your brain. And your brain just benefits so much from all the chemicals that come around when it comes to exercises. There's serotonin and dopamine and all those chemicals that really at the end of the day mean, hey, movement for your body is also good movement for your mind. And it's the breath too, just learning how to breathe and get that oxygen uptake to your brain. All of these things help our mental health. And I definitely, every day, I at least have one client where I try to push a little bit, like, come on, I bet you could do a little more if you wake up a little earlier. But then I have other clients whose plates are full, just like all of our guests today. So busy that I say, you'd be surprised how if you sneak in a little 5 minutes here and 10 minutes there, it still all adds up to big benefits.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because in this segment, while we're talking about mental health, there's that big component that's related to the physicality of it. Now, when you're not able, okay, so I'm a modification girl. And for those of you who do not know what that means, I'm gonna have Mocha explain that to you guys, because there are times when we think physically we have to go hard. We've got to get it in. We've got to do it like everyone else. But the reality is, as we're aging and as we're feeling certain aches and pains, our bodies don't move the way they used to move. So can you talk to us just a little bit about modifications and physical health that can help us alleviate the guilt from not being as mobile as others?
Phew, man, that's, you hit it on the head because I'm a former athlete. I trained some people who are former athletes. Even if you weren't a former athlete, you just remember back when you could do a lot more. And we have to just come to the realization that it's okay now if we can't do as much. It's okay. Your mind is saying, no, I think I can still do all the squats and all the sprints and all the high intensity stuff. But really your body is saying, no. You take it down a notch. And the word you used is modify. Modify the movements so that you're not injuring yourself or causing harm, but still getting mental benefits. So for example, I can give you two examples. One would be a strength example. So if you go to any fitness classes or deal with personal trainers, we all want to make you guys do squats and lunges and all these things that they do help your lower body, but they might not be friendly for your knees, right? So then there are modifications for that. And I think you and I have even done moves where you take an ankle weight, put it around your ankle, and do some moves on the floor where you're just doing leg lifts, which is safer for your knees. That's a modification. I have a lot of people who like being outside and jogging or running. Guess what? Again, not too friendly on the knees, maybe not friendly on the lower back. I always suggest them, how about getting in the swimming pool? Does anyone know that the water is like awesome workout, good for your joints, no impact on your joints. So a lot of times I just try to sneak in an introduction, just an idea, like maybe try to go to the pool or, just make small changes is really the whole idea of a modification. Make it yours. Make your exercise your own. And even this morning, I'm not kidding you, there was a workout that I led where some of the people were doing high knees, but your girl was just doing a regular old knee lift. Because I already know, I just have to appreciate where I am and know that I will still get benefits even if I'm not doing hardcore moves. So,
Thank you for sharing that, because I'm not a hardcore move person, and I don't know if any of our other guests are. But I do want to bring in Pastor J.T. Johnson into this conversation that we're having, because he has done something quite amazing. And I don't know if he'll want to share, but in addition to physical health, how we eat, our health and nutrition plays a very big part in what we do. And I'm going to say, Pastor JT, you astonish me. I'm going to let you share your story with our audience. And I don't know if this was a mental design for you, but your weight loss and how you carried your grace for the rest of us who were watching your process, you gave us all hope and inspired us. So share with us a little bit about what you did and your organization that is helping other people find their pathway to mental health through diet and exercise.
Thank you. This is a welcomed conversation. Being a pastor, I take it upon myself to ensure that everyone that I come in contact with is directed to the source. They know who God is. They have a relationship with him. But sadly enough, it's a lot of church people that go to church every Sunday, and they have a death plate immediately following 11 a.m. worship, and then they ask God to bless it. But one of the things that I have really taken upon myself is to look at a holistic approach. That it's not enough for us to come to church every Sunday and pray for God to bless us immensely, and then we're not taking care of the one thing that we have that he has given us charge over, and that's our body, our temple. So I went on a journey again. I joked this morning. Matter of fact, I sent out a Momentum newsletter every Monday. And just this morning, I sent out a blog that I just wrote about the danger of skipping meals. And I learned that because in quarantine, when I had some extra time, I became a certified personal trainer. And I saw that eating actually helps stimulate your thermogenesis. Starving yourself slows down everything. So I talked about this morning how I have been on a diet probably since I was about 8-9 years old, when I really came into the knowledge that, I was a little bit more overweight than everybody else. So I have probably taken everything, been on every diet. Not going to name them all, but I'm just going to tell you, I even took Dexatrim. We're going to keep that between us. But my mom really is the one that put a fire under my feet when we found out that she was tested for type 2 diabetes. And when I heard the news, she needed an accountability partner as she was about to change her diet. Now, my mother and father are from East Texas, and Daddy still needed everything, fried and have a piece of bread with every meal. So I told Mom, I say, hey, I'm gonna be your accountability partner. And I think I continued on and she stopped. But over the process, I lost over 100 pounds, was my highest. I was about 312. And now I hover around about 205, 210. And I have really changed my eating habits. But thinking about what Mocha just said about modification, I was patient enough to allow my body to adjust to the process that was happening. So I didn't just go cold turkey. I am a vegan now, but I didn't just go cold turkey. I started to remove red meat. And then I started to, my next step was removing chicken. Then my next step was removing fish. And then I became a vegetarian and now I'm vegan. And that happened over the course of about 3 years. So I didn't go on a fad diet. I didn't lose 20 pounds in 19 days like the weight loss gurus would advertise. It was about a pound a week. And it was real slow, but I believe that's the reason why it's been easy for me to maintain it. And when Mocha mentioned about modification, if I can just drop this, that is a holistic word for everything in our lives. You're not forced to continue to do the same thing that you did yesterday just because you did it yesterday. Even if it worked yesterday, it may not work for today. If you will give yourself the space and opportunity to modify some things, to change some things in your life, that may be a step ahead in your own mental health. There are some people that are trapped in the good old days of yesterday, and they're not even giving themselves an opportunity to appreciate the joy that is ahead of them because they're trying to duplicate something that was for last season.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I want to drop us out now into a break. But when we come back after the break, I want to share just for a few moments before we go into break some of the things that you may have heard. Oh, my goodness, the good old days. I'm telling you, I was a fried pork chop kid, and it took me a long time to decide to move that out of my diet. When we come back after the break, I want to talk to Dr. Tierney, Chad Anderson, and John Gregory. This will be one of the segments where I want you to sit back and hold on to your seat because sometimes we just don't know how to ask for help. When we're back after the break.
Pull up a chair, take your seat at the Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Welcome back, everybody. As you can tell, you're getting some rich nuggets today on how to live a balanced life, but also how to manage those things that are really plaguing you. For years, you may have been trying to lose weight, or you may have been feeling guilty about not being able to get the help that you need. Well, I hope today that something is said that will allow you to move yourself into that space of knowing first that you are ready. Let this season that we're moving into be the time that you give yourself grace. And you've heard about giving yourself patience, but also using modification as a means to be able to not only level up your life, but being able to ask for help. I want to talk for just a few moments now to Dr. Tierney, because some of the work that she does with her clients teaches them how to level up. And then we're going to have a one-on-one with our special guest from aawellness.org. Hey, Dr. Tierney.
Hey, Dr. Jackie.
How is it going? I know I asked you that already, but I feel like I have to keep checking in on you because when you said life overwhelms you, I know how busy your schedule is, and I've added this additional thing to your plate, and you handle it with such grace. When you think about the mental stigma behind asking for help, what is it that you teach or tell your clients in how to be able to move the needle of their lives?
Well, The first thing I always tell my clients and tell anybody, no one levels up alone. You know, we think that we can get to that next level on what I did and my own work and the sweat of my own brow, but everybody needs help, you know. And so one of the first things I like to do is unpack why are we reluctant to actually ask for help. A lot of times it's because we don't want to look like we don't have it all together. We don't want to look less intelligent. We don't want to look weak. Or it's that we don't want people all up in our business for fear that they will spread our business. Or we don't want to owe anybody anything because we don't want nobody saying nothing about what they did for us, you know, or it's just plain old pride, you know. And so if you find yourself in a position where you're thinking you might need help, but you're not sure of, should I ask for help? I want you to first do a self-check. And if in that self-check, any one of those things that I mentioned popped up, pride, you know, you're not sure if somebody's going to spread your business or anything like that, what we typically do is we will not ask for the help. And that's not what we need to do. We still need to ask for the help. But the question is, who are you asking for help? Because you don't want to ask the wrong person for help because, yeah, your business might get spread in the street, you know, or, yeah, they might hold it over your head. So you want to pray and say, okay, well, Lord, who is the person that you are inviting with me on this journey? You know, it might not be sister so-and-so. It might not be cousin such and such. You know, it might be a coach. It might be a therapist. It might be a fitness trainer. You know, it might be a family relative, you know, but making sure that we are asking for the help and not holding ourselves and becoming a self-sabotaging roadblock, getting in our own way of us getting to that next level of success because our own pride is getting in the way.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, scripturally, pride comes before the fall, or pride goes before the fall. And sometimes getting out of our own way, Dr. Tierney, is something we have a difficulty doing. What are some of the signs that you can share with us when people are in their own way, like self-sabotaging?
Yeah, I'll start with that one, self-sabotaging. And so self-sabotaging is basically where you are doing actions that are the exact opposite of the goal that you want. So let's say your goal is to save $100, but then you turn around and spend $100 on a pair of shoes. You know, that's a self-sabotaging action. Another thing that you may see if you are kind of getting in your own way, you're clinging to the comfort zone. So I love what Pastor JT said earlier about trying to do what you did in one season, thinking that it will work in this new season. That's often where we are stuck in our comfort zone. In order to get to that next level, you have to get uncomfortable. It is going to be uncomfortable. So you don't get to the next level alone, and you can't get there by clinging to your comfort zone. Those are the two ways that I typically see my clients getting in their own way. The third way, which is a caveat to the first one, the self-sabotaging action, it's procrastination. Procrastination is a self-sabotaging action. Now, people don't procrastinate just for the sake of procrastination. There's usually something up under that procrastination. Usually it's a fear, it's an insecurity. There's a deeper emotion that goes along with that procrastination. And in an effort to avoid that feeling, that emotion, we'll procrastinate on doing whatever that thing is. And so all of those things become how we get in our own way. And then we don't lose the weight. We don't start the business. We don't reach whatever that goal is that we're setting for our lives.
Wow, goal setting is a very big part of being able to move your lives forward. Thank you for sharing those tips. Audience, I hope that you are listening and that you are taking notes. What you're hearing today is the way in which you will be able to build for yourself a toolkit, a lifestyle toward balanced living. I want to bring in now our very special guest that we have today of aawellness.org. We're going to talk to John Gregory and Chad Anderson. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am delighted that you are here. And in this segment, while we're talking about the stigma of mental health, you deal specifically in the area of men. Can you tell us about your organization and about yourselves, and then kind of walk us through what it is you do?
Yeah, the name of our organization is the African American Male Wellness Agency. Black men die of all 5 top diseases, number 1. So for the last 19 years, what we have been doing is trying to bring attention to Black men's health issues. So what we do is probably right now in 17 different cities, we hold an annual event called a Wellness Mobile 5K Walk and Run, where we go in and we do free health screenings for Black men. And that really was a very interesting perspective because we were bringing men physical health. And then over the last 10 years, we started dealing with Black men in mental health called Real Men, Real Talk, where we really focus on Black men and their mental health perspective of how they live, how they function, and what they think about themselves, and how they relate that to their family. So we really have done something really unique. And every city we go to, we get lots of Black men that come out and participate. They get free health screenings with Black doctors, nurses, what have you. But then during the course of the year, we host sessions for Black men to come and talk. And we're talking about having real conversations, the kind of conversations that talk about how do you survive as a Black man in this society? How do you deal with your wife? How do you deal with your children? And what we really do is provide a free space for Black men just to be honest, open, and real. And I do want to say that I'm not trying to be cool. I went blind, and it was really interesting that you were talking because, I am a Black man who runs a corporation, have over 160 employees, and in the midst of being successful, I went blind and had to go from being independent to being dependent. And that itself was a really mental challenge. But what I had to do was be real, honest, and open, that I knew that I could not function unless I got the mental help that I needed from my community.
Thank you for sharing that, because I know people were probably sitting there thinking, why does he have on sunglasses? But I already knew this. I didn't know the story, but I understood that you were blind, and I appreciate your honesty and transparency, because oftentimes you said the word dependability. And as we already talked about, pride goes before the fall. Now, Chad, you work very closely with John, and in his being vulnerable and having to depend on others, how do you see that as a benefit for other Black men to say it's okay to ask for help as long as you ask the right person to be your helper?
Absolutely. I'd like to think that my relationship with Mr. Gregory and I is like a Jonathan and David relationship. Not only have I been able to benefit from this situation because over the past 7 years, he has poured all his knowledge, his information into me. And so being his executive assistant, but also having an opportunity to serve at one point as the director of the agency, we were able to travel across the country, and with him being blind still, and provide free health screenings for Black men. And why that is so special is because I still see the impact of the work that Mr. Gregory has done. Every time we have our free screenings, we are sending men from our screening pavilion to the emergency room. There's men that are sick and don't even know it. And so to have the honor of being able to navigate through our culture, through our country, to help save Black men's lives with the knowledge and such good reputation that Mr. Gregory has been a blessing, not only to myself, but also to my family too.
Thank you for sharing. I'd like to bring Pastor JT into this conversation, because sometimes faith and mental health and asking for help and the stigma that goes with it, they don't match up too well. So can you talk for just a moment as we're listening to Chad and John share with us how they have this amazing resource in 17 cities for people to come to? As a pastor and church leader, why don't men seek help?
Wow. Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for your great work. It is definitely needed. I made a statement yesterday. A series that we're going through this month is talking about table conversations. And I'm preaching on some hard conversations, some hard truths that typically is not discussed over the pulpit. And yesterday I made a point while I was preaching, and I had to stop and kind of flesh it out. But I said a lot of people don't open up and talk because they have confession trauma. And when I said it, I had to stop and kind of work through it. But my definition that I came up with yesterday is a person who opens up, who talks, who confesses, who says I'm hurt, who says I need help. But then someone else told them, no, you're not. Be quiet. That's not real. Then there was a callus that was created over that. And so then now we have learned how to take life on the chin. And I said that the most dangerous thing is that if we continue to take life on the chin in the form of boxing, if you continue to take it on the chin, eventually you're going to end up on the canvas. And it's so many of us who are descendants or we are benefactors of seeing this emotional trauma, this mental trauma, this confession trauma be passed down. And typically in the African-American community, and not just church, but typically in the African-American community, men are told, you don't have no feelings. You just got to get up and go. You got to get up and make it. And without taking this conversation too far away, I always say we have to be honest. My father, who this year will turn 78 years old, is the son of a former slave. My grandfather was a former slave. So that means I can touch Black history. My father grew up on the backside of Newton County, Jasper, Texas, where there was white signs, white only, Black. And so if we think about that trauma, we are just a generation away from where we didn't have an opportunity to say we were hurt. We're just a generation away where we didn't have an opportunity to go and get help because we had to carry the burden of the weight on us. And then I'll say this in closing to answer your question about the church. The church really hasn't, to me. I think the new generation, I think the millennial push is forcing us to talk about some things that we didn't necessarily talk about. But the church really, to me, didn't do as good of a job, I believe, as we could have in addressing mental health because we were forced to pray about it when we really probably need to sit down and talk about it. People got up and went to the altar and they came back to their seats and the only thing they had was a greasy forehead when really they needed to spend some time talking about some things that was haunting them. Typically, there are conversations that need to be brought to the table that probably have been swept under the rug. And it has just created a generational responses to things that I pray now, because we have so much awareness and there's so much energy and synergy that's being brought to mental health and mental health awareness and Black men and their health. I hope that we will now be the bearers of the torch that will change the trajectory of what we have experienced in the past.
Thank you for sharing that. Chad and John, when you hear those types of statements and men may have come to you, from the church hurt, come to you from homelessness, come to you from dealing with all the isms, racism, sexism, colorism, ageism, how do you help them unpack all of the traumas that they bring to the spaces where you occupy?
Well, I think that, and it's really interesting, is because our churches are made up of predominantly women. And so Black men don't see themselves as having a space in the church. And so they don't oftentimes go to the church for the place where they talk. And so what we do is we provide an opportunity for Black men just to come and talk. And it's really amazing. I think the last session we had 3 or 4 brothers who just opened up and talked about how their mothers were strung out on crack and had given them up their crack, and how through their life, even though they were accomplished master's degree brothers, that they were struggling with their identity or struggling with things. And so we really use talk therapy as a method of getting Black men to open up. And I think it's the other thing is we create these safe spaces. We're going to gyms, we're going to barbershops, we're going out to restaurants, we're having them in the park. And we're letting brothers, which is really interesting, as the pastor said, the millennial brothers that are coming too are a little more likely to be open and want to talk about the fact that their fathers weren't in their life. 29% of Black children are raised in a 2-family household. 79% of white children are raised in a family household. So you got Black men who didn't have their fathers who are now looking to connect with a man so that they can talk about what is it like to be a man. Oftentimes I get a chance to speak, and I know women, Black sisters get mad at me, but I tell sisters, women can't raise boys. Boys got to be raised by a man. And oftentimes when you see Black men, because they have been raised by women, they have a very feminine emotional development. And so what we do is we allow Black men to now come and be open and be vulnerable and be in a safe space. And when you have other Black men who are being open, now we're able to offer. You get Black men sharing, hey, this is how I got through this. You will get through this. For my blindness, just to let you know, is that I didn't sit. The first year I was blind, I was like, hey, let me write a book. I wrote a book saying the 8 things I learned from Oprah from a man's perspective. And my first chapter was, it's not the end of the world. Black men got to learn it's not the end of the world. We do have racism, but we will get through it. When you think in terms of every time we see a red light behind us, we get nervous. But nobody talks about that because in psychology, the things that they identify for depression, none of that identifies of the Black man's experience. So us letting Black men be open and taught and be vulnerable is the way that we get them to share.
And I think another great thing that has happened inside these conversations are that we have Black mental health experts in the room that look like us. And so now that we're open, or now that the men are open, there's someone there that they can continue the conversations with and really get the help that they need and transition from that room into their own counseling or whatever other solutions that they need. So being there and being able to provide some sense of solutions has been tremendous, because, we had some young men, they talk about suicide. They're talking about a lot of things that they're going through. And so by having those Black mental health experts in the room to keep them where they need to be at, I think is powerful as well.
Thank you all for sharing. I want to jump into a break. And when we come back after the break, I want us to dive into helping people build at least some type of a baseline platform to start saying, I can live a balanced life. I can check on myself. I can get my mental health in order. If anybody says they don't have a mental health issue, they're literally kidding themselves, because all of us are stressed. All of us are anxious. All of us are filled with angst. All of us are triggered. And I know I say this all the time. Not everything is all, but the reality is there is something throughout every day that gets on our nerves. Come on now, let's be honest. There is something or someone in every day. If you have a good day where no one bugs you, no one is bothering you, no one is getting on your nerves, that is outstanding. And I want you to champion that and figure out how you got there, and then share that with other people. I mean, literally bottle that up and figure out how to tell everybody else. When we come back after the break, we're going to hear from everybody, because we want to get a few tips and tools that we can take along on our mental wellness journey. When we're back after the break.
These are the only bins that will accommodate larger rollerboards.
They put 10 in here?
10, and you don't come out till you die. And you eat him, you eat 10.
Oh my God.
Welcome back, everybody. Come on, bring them all in. I'm good. We are here. We are ready. Thank you, everybody, for such a stimulating conversation. Oh, my goodness. I was like, I don't want this to end. I don't want this to end, because it's been so rich. And I know that our audience will enjoy. So we have about 10, 15 minutes left in our conversation. I really want to do a round robin, because we've heard a lot, and I know you all have a lot to add. So I'm going to start with Mocha. So Mocha, what do you have to say for our audience who is trying to figure out where to start? Now, this can be mental, physical, relational. Where would you say is a good place for people to begin, and then move us into some type of fitness journey that can help us stay in that positive space?
So I like it. I like what you're saying. And you know, Dr. Jackie, I have to share that we've had mornings with Mocha, and I bring that up because in terms of your mental state, it's all how you start the day, honestly. And it took me a while to realize how important the way you start your day is going to set the tone for the whole rest of your day. And I used to be the person that would literally roll out the bed and just be like, I gotta, I gotta hurry up and get with clients. Or now as a mom, I gotta hurry up and get the kids to school. But I realized I have got to have morning meditation. So just quote that. Mocha mentioned morning meditation because even if it's only 5 minutes, I'm telling you, it really helps me get my head together, and meditation means different things to different people. So I used to always feel like my morning prayers were meditation. And I would say, wake up and say, thank you, God, for this day. And thank you that I'm, going to have a great day. And, but what I learned recently is that you can pray, but you can also just sit in quiet and listen and see if God is going to give you some direction on the day. And especially if it's physical, you can be honest and say, God, I'm tired this morning, but I'm thanking you in advance for the energy to go ahead and go on this little morning walk that I need, because I'm going to get some good vitamin D from that sunshine. It's going to help my mood. And, you just have to think. It's really about, I believe that it's about thinking positive. And I learned also in my morning meditation that I personally have to do positive affirmations, because I always feel like there's too much to do and too little time every day. That is honestly how I feel. So instead of staying in that space, I just confess, I just say, hey, I do have time. Thank you, God, that I have enough time. I can create time. This is going to be a good day. I literally just believe that the more you put the positive out there, the more it's going to manifest. And then in terms of the fitness, how do I just get consistent? I have a lot of clients who start a routine, and then for some reason they just start to slide on down. And it's because it's hard. Come on, let's be honest. It's hard to stay consistent on any type of exercise routine. But if you find something that you like, you're going to stick to it better. And I've noticed, I have a couple clients who, believe it or not, they just like dancing. They will throw on a song and just, move and groove. And movement is what counts. It doesn't have to be, and some type of official workout that you've heard about, like a HIIT workout or a Zumba workout. It doesn't have to be anything that you've heard that's popular. It can just simply be a walk. And I always encourage the walks, because I'm telling you, the walks are beneficial, especially now that we're in the season where the weather is pretty decent in most parts of your viewers' areas. But just get out and walk and talk, talk to someone else, because that's always great. Like we said, you need to have someone else keep you accountable. Walk and talk. Walk and meditate, but do it in the morning. You know why? Because if you procrastinate, as Dr. Tierney said, you might not ever get back to it. So most of the people I've trained over the 20 years in my personal training and fitness career, those successful ones, wake up and get it over with. So that's my advice. Yeah. Well, and I try to practice what I preach too. I try so hard.
Yeah, practice what you preach, Mocha. Practice what you preach. I appreciate that. So the first thing on you guys' list that you should have written down was set the day with time for yourself. Whatever that may look like, set the time for you. Pastor JT, what you got to say for him?
Wow. I want to piggyback off of something that Mocha just said about those affirmations. You have to really be careful about what you say. I spoke and I talked at Eisenhower High School in Houston just last week, and I talked about the power of I am. And whatever you put behind that am, that's what you're going to create. So whatever you're seeing, if you're not seeing what you want to see, then you have to say the opposite. So if you're sick, I am well. If money is not flowing the way you want it to flow, I'm living in abundance. You have to speak those things. But as far as mental health is concerned, one thing that I will say is, and I think it goes without saying, but I have to say it, you are in control of you. A lot of people, their mental health is bound and attached to someone else, maybe someone else's opinion, maybe someone else's thoughts. maybe feeling that they have to show up for everybody else. And so many times, a lot of people show up for so many people that they forget to show up for themselves. You have to make you a priority. And in making you a priority, there are some words that you may have to say that you haven't said in a long time. And one of those words are just 2 letters, no. There may be some no's that have to come across. I can't go out this week. I don't want to go out. You don't have to make up anything. Take some time for you. Self-care. Unplug that phone. So many people wake up in the morning, and before they even get out of bed, they're checking Instagram. They're checking Facebook. You don't even know if your legs work, but you're on your phone. Don't wake up and go to your emails. Just as Mocha said, start the day off right. And then another thing that I will say is journaling. When you have that feeling, when you have that moment, write it down. And you may be able to come back to that and figure out what brought you to that place. What happened in that moment that caused you to have that reaction? What caused you to have that emotional response? And there are so many things that we could say, but I will end with this one. Pray. I believe in the power of prayer. Man, I actually wrote a book about prayer called I Pray. But I believe that prayer has such a centering effect that when we talk to God, he has a way of calming us in some of the most chaotic moments. And then before you know it, you think you're talking to God and you end up repeating things back to yourself. And the same words that God would tell you, he brings it back to your remembrance so you can encourage yourself. So that's my spiel on that.
I appreciate that. So you've heard a second thing. Not only do you set your day with time for yourself, but you also want to give yourself positive affirmations. We've heard it over and over again. And even for those of you who are unchurched that watch us on a regular basis, there is life and death in the power of the tongue. So make certain that you are putting those I am things or your I am statements in place for your life. And then be cautious about who you ask to pray for you, and be cautious about who is in your inner circle. Chad and John, what say ye, gentlemen?
I would say for me, again, I wake up in the morning, and even though I'm blind, I look in the mirror and say, I am great. So I start my day off with, I am great. And the other thing is, what I try to teach people is this, and make it lively in their life. It's not the end of the world. No matter what you're going through at that moment in time, it's just a moment in time, and it's not the end of the world. People go through all kinds of things. They recover, they get over it, and sometimes it's a door for a new opening, a new place in your life. So sometimes it's a tragedy, but that tragedy comes into a whole new walk of life for yourself. So just always know it's not the end of the world.
I think that's very good. I think for me, one of my key components that I try to live by is my association. At 1 Corinthians 15:33, it says, bad association spoils useful habits. So try my best to surround myself around people that are adding value to my life.
That's rich right there. You hear that, everybody? Your number 3 and number 4 are start with the I am great statement, as John has stated. I mean, honestly, he told us that he was blind. It happened during the midst of all of his success. It hasn't changed him. It hasn't caused him to say, oh, I can't do this great work anymore. Because clearly, he who began a good work in you is faithful to complete it until the day of completion. And so it's important that we begin to identify and recognize that our situations in life don't determine necessarily our outcome and end results. But then also, as Chad stated, you have to watch your associations. Watch your associations. I'm going to say it again. Watch your associations. We've talked before on this show about nature versus nurture. And oftentimes the people around us can cause us to get into situations that have been difficult to undo. But then there's some times where we have really good associations, and those people are able to pick us up and push us along the journey that we're supposed to be on, so that we can say that I am great. Dr. Tierney.
So I'm going to expound on exactly what you were just saying, Dr. Jacquie, and what Chad said, your associations. So most of us have heard of an amen corner. But we haven't really heard of an accountability corner. Now, these are the people in your accountability corner that you trust, the people that you don't have to hide from, the people that if you say, oh, I'm fine, they can hear it in the sound of your voice, in the look of your eye, and in your disposition, that something's not quite right. And so these are the people that you have around you that help to propel you forward to your next level. We often get comfortable in our amen corners because we just want to hear, yeah, girl, you fine. Don't worry about it. No, that was just to get that validation. But in our accountability corners, yeah, they'll validate us when we're right, but they'll tell us when we're wrong. You know, these are the people that we have absolutely no problems going to for help. Now, our accountability corners might not be comprised of the people that we know or in friendship or relationship with. So it might not be your mom. It might not be your sister. It might not be your cousin or your best friend. It might be your coach. You know, it might be your therapist. It might be your pastor. So my advice is to find your accountability corner, and allow yourself, give yourself permission to be vulnerable in those spaces so that you can get the help that you need, so that you can get to the level that you desire.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tierney, and everyone for sharing. Let me just give a small recap of what you've heard. These are your top 5 ways in order to begin to put a foundation for yourself in living a balanced life. Number 1, set your day with time for yourself. Number 2, give yourself positive affirmations. Number 3, know that you are great. And number 4, watch your associations. And then number 5, get you an accountability corner. When we come back after the break, I'll do my reflections.
It's time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way. Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on that.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
You dig?
Welcome back, everyone. As you can tell, our guests and our panelists and contributors today have given you some tips and nuggets that you can use for everyday life. We're not here to blow smoke. We're not here to try to make you feel good, because I know, like we say in church, if you can't say amen, say ouch. And I know that there were a lot of toes being stepped on during this segment, but it's for your benefit. Honestly, as we grow as individuals and we're seeking to find our own balance through this pandemic, as we're looking for ways to get over and become overcomers, it behooves us to really decide how we want our mental health to be shaped. Our mental health sometimes comes because there's an imbalance in our body and we need medical attention and we need medication. But there are other times that our mental health comes from stress and anxiety and just being around familiar people, places, and things, and being in our comfort zone for too long. And sometimes it's being out of fellowship with our Heavenly Father. Most of you know that I'm an ordained minister, so I give no apology for the way that we use the Word of God to motivate, encourage, and strengthen you on this journey. I hope that wherever you are and where you meet us in our segments today, that you will allow yourself to be whole and healed. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And I am so delighted that we had an opportunity to speak with all of our guests to put you on a path to mental wellness. Bye now.